With the mid-war cards mixed in, the scope of the game changes to include other parts of the board. Central America is one of the regions that comes into focus. We're going to analyze it now here on Legendary Tactics. The Central America scoring card is the first of the mid-war scoring cards that we will cover. It's a volatile area of the board, and one that will be hotly contested. Let's take a look at it. Central America is composed of 3 battlegrounds and 7 non-battleground countries. Scoring presence is worth 1 victory point, domination is worth 3, and control is worth 5 victory points. From the Soviet perspective, Central America is an attractive region. Because Cuba and Mexico are next door to the US, control of either of them gives an extra victory point each time Central America is scored. And Panama is an easy coup target. For these reasons, the USSR will be very motivated to get domination, and so the US is forced to contest Central America, mainly to prevent the USSR from racking up the score. In the early war, Cuba normally falls under Soviet control because of the Fidel event, and most times it remains a Soviet stronghold in the region. Aside from a possible coup in Panama, usually that's most of the action this region gets in the early war. It is not recommended to waste influence from a great event like de-Stalinization in this region, which is of lower priority. In the mid-war, events like junta, che, and liberation theology can help you to get out of Cuba and spread more influence in the region. Liberation theology in particular can be key, as can Soviet luck with coups in the region. I've seen junta to be very powerful as well, sometimes with a coup, sometimes with realignments. The only event of note in the late war for the Soviets that affects this region is Ortega elected in Nicaragua. This can be a DEFCON suicide card for the US, if the US has any influence in Cuba. Otherwise, it's not a very notable event and is unlikely to sway the region much. The only challenge in all this is that Cuba, Mexico, and potentially even Panama, with US control of Costa Rica, are vulnerable to realignments. This can undo any potential good work done and foil Soviet plans. Also, both Mexico and Panama are vulnerable to other cards like junta or regular coups. To mitigate this, you can consider taking over some of the adjacent low-ops countries around them. The risk there is that it provides easy coup targets for the mil-ops-hungry US, but the benefit is that they are pretty low-priority countries overall, and the United States is typically not well served by wasting cards and ops on them. And all this highlights a very typical situation where one side gets 2 out of the 3 battlegrounds, and the other side tries to control more countries to prevent domination. When the scoring of Central America really comes into its own for the Soviets, you gotta be thinking about control, which is worth 10 victory points if you can pull it off. For the US, because of its low relative value, this is a region that you do not need to prioritize overall, but that doesn't mean you can or should ignore it. Domination, though, is usually only worth 3 victory points to the US, the best setup for that domination being control of Panama, Mexico, and Costa Rica because of its high stability. Also, for the US player, control of the region is worth 8 victory points, which is great if you can pull it off, but usually you have other things to attend to elsewhere. Both Panama and Mexico are potentially easy targets for coups, just as much for the US as the Soviets. Panama is especially vulnerable, especially earlier on in the game before you have the extra op or 2 to reinforce it. Costa Rica is a rock in a generally unstable region, but an expensive one. 3 influence can be a lot at some points of the game, but it is nice to control if you can. The other non-battlegrounds are of such low stability, however, that you're just asking for a coup by placing influence there, handing the USSR both military ops and territory that can count towards domination. In the early war, there usually isn't any ops to spare for Central America, and the situation doesn't necessarily get much better over the rest of the game. However, there are some mid-war events of note. Some events that might be helpful are Panama Canal returned, to shore up Costa Rica and Panama, puppet governments to grab some of the one stability non-battleground countries, or perhaps add an influence to Mexico at DEFCON 2, and junta, which if timed correctly can swing the region with its potentially powerful event. Latin American death squads can also be helpful for the US and for the Soviets as well, but in practice I haven't seen this event played very often. And don't forget that Ortega elected in Nicaragua can be a DEFCON suicide card for you if you happen to have any influence in Cuba. You'll have to hold on to it or send it to space to prevent a sudden, perhaps unexpected loss. Otherwise, this event usually results in a weak coup on Costa Rica that doesn't go anywhere. Overall, for the USSR, Central America is a point machine for you and a distraction for the US, which serves you well either way. And for the US, defending this region is a necessary evil. You have to spend enough ops there to minimize its impact, but no more. This has been our analysis of the Central America scoring card in Twilight Struggle. Thank you so much for watching. If you got some value out of this, please like and subscribe below, and join us next time here on Legendary Tactics.